Dumbbell side laterals or lateral raises. I think that's what I used to call them. I don't really remember. I know people have seen many different variations to this. First of all, let me just note, these are never done first for me. I just believe that your shoulders really need to be warmed up. So I would recommend doing some pressing like I've done today. I've done two different exercises on pressing. I've done my rear delts as well. I've done 2 exercises on rear delts. So this is like coming to the end of the workout. I would never recommend doing this early in your workout. It's not something I would do first. Well, it's 100%. I would never do this first. And I wouldn't even recommend doing this second, because rear delts is something that not a lot of people have a lot of. It's not something you can overtrain. It's not something that you can overdevelop compared to the rest of your body. So I would always recommend doing your rear delts first, which is this bit over here. And then I would say do the side delts. Now, what do the side delts do? The side delts give you that V taper. So the bigger and wider your side delts are, I'm trying to look wider here. I'm not looking wide. I'm not bulking right now. I'm cutting. Actually, I'm not cutting, I'm maintaining. But the reason, another thing why as well, when you have your top off, why you look wider, is the wider your delts are and the narrower your waist is, the more V taper you're going to create. So it creates a nice illusion. Sometimes narrow guys like me with narrow clavicles, when I wear a hoodie or I've got a big heavy sweat top on, or even a jacket, I don't look that wide because you can't see how small my waist actually is. But when I'm in a hot country, you can see. So even though I'm not the widest guy with the widest clavicles, because my waist is smaller, the V taper is even more prominent. Right, so the way to do this, now we've already warmed up in the sense where we've done all the other exercises. So your delts right now should be pretty warmed up, they should be pretty pumped. But still, I would go in, because they are your rotator cuffs. I'd go in and I'd give them a nice little warm up first. So I'm just going to grab the light dumbbells over here. So this is just the 5 kilos. And what I'm doing, I'm going to demonstrate the technique in a minute. And then we just go through the motions first. So I'm just going to do nice 10 to 15 repetitions over here. Now, I'm not going to be counting this. This is always the first warm up set. And remember, like I've said, when it comes to side delts, this is not an opening exercise. This is not a compound exercise. This is not an exercise that you should be going heavy in. What you should be doing over here is contracting, squeezing your rear delts. Now I'm going to go over a couple of key pointers if you just come to the front. So let me explain how this works first and foremost. Now, most people get this one wrong, so I'm going to explain a very basic technique. Let me just show you what needs to be done in order to activate that side delt. On the rear delt, the side delt. So let me just put the dumbbells down for 1 second. Now, this is what's happening in this process. The elbow over here, the elbow, needs to be higher or in line with the shoulder, like this. That is where you want to end up. Now, if you hold the dumbbells here, if you don't know how to train the side delts, let me show you from the side. So from the side, it's like this. This is how it should look from the side. This is how it should look from the front. Now let's add some weight into that. Remember, this is just for newbies. If you don't know the technique, this is how you do it. This is what we're aiming for. Down towards your pockets, not straight down. We don't need to do that. Keep it like this, up and down. So elbows just need to be slightly higher than your shoulders at the top. Now, if you want to make this weight feel a little bit higher, a little bit heavier, we're going to bring the weights out a little. So let me just show you what that's doing there. I'm bringing my arm from here to here. So if I start from there, and that is what it should look like. Now, here is the most powerful position. If you straighten your arms too much like this, you might have seen guys do this for side delts as well. This is also good, I would say, if you were using a lightweight. My only problem is if you were using a really heavy weight, one, you wouldn't be able to go as heavy because this really taxes your side delts. And the other thing with doing this technique is if the arm's too straight, let me just show you from the side. So if the arms are too straight like this, the other issue with that is because the weight is so heavy, the weight is so far away from the body, you're not tight enough. And when you're not tight enough, you're gonna get injured. And like I've said many times, when training, especially when it comes to shoulders, this is something that we're going to need when you're benching, when you're training chest, when you're deadlifting, when you're doing pull-ups, training back. even when you're training legs. You're gonna need your rotator cuff, you're gonna need your shoulders. So shoulders is something that I would say gets worked every single exercise, other than maybe, I don't know, leg press. But then even in leg press, you're holding onto something. So your shoulders are very, very important. More important than any other joint, I would say, in your body. So keep it fresh, keep it healthy. Don't be taxing your shoulders. Don't be going through those awful ranges where there's awful sets where people are behind you and you can't do no more, and someone's behind you giving you a fucking spot, 20, 30 more repetitions, high reps, drop sets, this, that. Fuck all that bullshit. I would never do any drop set or any forced reps or anything like that. I don't want nobody spotting me on my fucking shoulders, because when my shoulders are fucked and completely gone, they're gonna let me know when they're fucking done. So the last thing I want to do is someone standing behind me when my shoulder at mechanical failure, when I cannot do another fucking rep, completely muscles fatigued, and someone's there pushing me, trying to go through range of motion that my body doesn't allow. And what happens? You get injured. You might not get injured there and then while you're doing that session, but later on, maybe 6 months, maybe you're down the line, maybe 2 years down the line, when you do get a shoulder injury, you are going to be fucked for a very, very long time. The shoulder injury is not like, oh, I've got a little twinge here, or my bicep strained a little bit, or my back, or just, can you just push this out and just adjust my hip here? Listen, when your shoulder's fucked, ask anybody, if you guys are watching this video and you've had shoulder injury, it's not a 1 week or a 2 week or even a 1 month job. You will be out of training for a very fucking long time. So stay smart, stay safe when doing this exercise or any shoulder exercise. Right, now I'm going to move into set number 1. Again, I don't go too heavy on this, but I've already warmed up, so I'm going to grab the 12 kilos over here. And I'm just going to go for 12 repetitions. Another rule of thumb to remember when you're training shoulders, when it comes to rep range, just to give you a little example how to gauge it. Like I said, I've already trained other exercises for shoulders. I could easily have gone more heavy than that. I can easily go way more heavier for shoulders, but I always like to keep maybe 5, sometimes people are going to hate me when I say this, 10 reps in the tank. Or if people want to call it, the modern terminology to that is reps in reverse or reps in reserve, sorry. It's just how many you think you could do and you cut short. It's a simple fucking terminology. Don't overcomplicate it. I could have done way more. But what is the point of going to total failure on the side delt when this isn't going to be growing the mountains of muscle? Let me give you a little example. If I was to do shoulder press, now when I'm doing the shoulder press, I can easily do the 50 kilo dumbbells, whether you guys want to believe it or not. In fact, I've done it in some of the other videos. But the point I'm trying to say is, that's 100 kilo I'm pressing overhead. How much muscle is 100 kilo gonna build for me, or break down that muscle tissue in order for me to repair and build it? Compared to, let's say, at maximum, at a push, I could do 25 kilos a side with bad form. I would rather do 10 repetitions with 20 kilos a side, nice controlled fucking motions, make sure my shoulders aren't injured, make sure they're ready for the day after as well. I mean, tomorrow I've got all my training tomorrow, I've got legs tomorrow. Okay, so I deliberately program my cycle like that so that I'm not fatiguing myself. But for example, let's say if I was training back tomorrow, I need my fucking shoulders. Some guys in the programs do shoulders and then they do back the next day, or they might do chest the next day. So don't be overworking that fucking tiny little joint over here. It's a very small joint. You damage this, you're gonna be fucked. Rest period when it comes to side laterals. Because it is like one of the exercises that I would say is done at the end of your workout, 2 minutes is more than enough to rest for this. Like I said, we're not doing drop sets, we're not doing forced reps, we're not getting a spotter behind us, nobody needs to pass us the dumbbells, we pick the dumbbells up, we do the repetitions, we put them back. It's a very simple exercise. Don't overcomplicate it. So the next set I'm gonna do 15 kilos now. I've got 15 kilos now. So I would class this as my first working set. Now, what you're gonna see here, I'm deliberately gonna be swinging around a little bit. I can do these quite strict like this, but I like to keep a little bit of a swing. I know what I'm doing. Everything's nice and controlled. I'm not damaging my shoulders. My upper body is pretty fixed. Everything's pretty tight. The dumbbells are down to the side. I don't recommend doing this, and I'll tell you why. When you bring the dumbbells in front, you're using too much off back. That is very unnatural for me. So keep it down to the side, keep your arms bent a little bit, and this is a little bit easier to use a bit of momentum to get them up. Another thing you could see from the side there is my elbows probably aren't going higher than my shoulders, but they're getting very close to it. So this is my last few forced reps, if you want to call it that, the hard reps, the reps that count, or the reps that make the muscle work. As you can see there, you don't have to go crazy when it comes to this. That was 15 kilo. I would say that was my first working set. I did 2 warm-up sets. I'll go straight into 17 kilo in another minute, and then maybe 20 kilo to finish off my last set. I don't go as heavy. Actually, I don't go heavier than 17 kilo, but I'm going to demonstrate in this video what it looks like to do a heavy weight and how much you should be swinging, how much swing is okay to do and safe enough that you're not going to get injured. And I know I'm going to keep going on about this point because it's very fucking important. Don't go crazy on shoulders. Do not be sat down. Do not be going through this range of motion where you're going to think, oh, I'm going to go through this burn and someone's going to stand behind you and fucking force reps, all this bullshit, and then drop sets and, oh, we're going to do lower weight and then we're going to do bands and then someone's going to statically hold us behind. If you want to get injured, follow those kind of fucking workouts. Now, don't get me wrong. Those workouts might work for something like strongman or something like that where you need to be holding something, so you're working through those pain barriers. But if you want longevity, which is what I'm preaching, which is what I'm trying to do, then don't go through those pain barriers. Don't go through those pain barriers. Pain barriers. Okay, so this is my heaviest set, what I normally do, 17 kilo. As you saw there, because the weight got a little bit heavier for me, I made sure that the dumbbells were a little bit closer to my body. So rather than being here, I was more there. It's a little technique you can use. You need to familiarize yourself with it on where you need to do it. There's no set point throughout the workout, or even throughout the set, in fact. You could start a little bit more straighter. As the set gets a little bit harder, you want to squeeze out a few more reps, you can bend your elbows a little bit. Believe it or not, I've not seen that tip anywhere. It's not something I've invented. I didn't hear it from anybody, but it's such a simple fucking thing of just standing here, starting here. As it gets harder, just bend your elbows a little bit. And you're still doing this motion, but it's just less load on your shoulders. Want to create that load a little bit more? Straighten them out. Obviously, basic physics will tell you that the further out it is, the more heavier it's going to be. The closer it is, you get what I'm trying to say. This isn't a fucking physics lesson. The gym isn't that fucking complicated. Okay, now I'm going to do my last set. 20 kilo, I don't normally do this. Just for camera only, just to fly there. And you can see this from the side, how I slowly bend my arms. As you can see there, another thing. 2-minute rest, that's all you need for this. 2 minutes maximum. Straight in. 20 kilos. Okay. So arms are going to stay fairly straight to start with. So as it's getting a bit heavier now, I'm going to start bending them. I don't have to bend them here, but you'll see while I'm doing the rep how much they bend. Another thing you might have noticed, my body swinging around a little bit. To the untrained eye, that might look like I'm going to get injured, but that works perfectly fine. So for me, I know exactly what I'm doing. if you look at the weight compared to what I can deadlift, that was 40 kilo there, 20 kilo side. Is 40 kilo really gonna injure me if I'm doing this? If I can do good mornings with, you know, I'm not gonna say, but I can deadlift quite a lot of weight. Watch my Instagram, you'll fucking know. It's not gonna get me injured. Make sure if you're gonna do a little bit of momentum, make sure everything's under control. 2 minutes, more than enough rest period for this exercise, and never do this at the start of your exercise. If you want more tips like this, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below, and like the video.